There is an hour before dawn that belongs entirely to the raccoon. Not the deep night, not the midnight hour when the neighborhood is fully dark and fully asleep and the raccoon is at her most operational, most focused, most purposeful, most engaged in the practical work of surviving. That hour is well documented. Researchers have studied it. Most people who watch raccoons have some sense of it. The hour before dawn is different, and almost no one talks about it. It is the hour when the work is done, when the foraging is finished and the visits completed and the night's practical business concluded. It is the hour when the raccoon does the things she does not do at any other time of night, the behaviors that have no survival function that researchers can easily explain, the actions that look, from the outside, less like the behavior of an animal managing its survival, and more like the behavior of a creature that has, for one quiet hour before the world wakes up, simply decided to be. Researchers who study raccoons almost always study them in the active phases of their night: the foraging, the problem-solving, the social interactions, the territory management. The pre-dawn hour falls outside the conventional study window. It is poorly documented, almost entirely unobserved by the people who study these animals for a living. Tonight you are going to see what happens in that hour, for the first time. Welcome back to Hidden Backyard Wildlife, the channel where we sit with the small wild lives that share our yards and try to understand what they understand about the world. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe before this video is over, because what you are about to learn is going to permanently change the way you think about the raccoon that visits your yard, because you will finally understand that the animal you see in the active night is only part of the story. The part you have never seen is the quiet part, and the quiet part is extraordinary. Today we are walking through 8 things raccoons do in the hour before dawn that almost no one has ever documented. What each of those behaviors tells us about who this animal really is when the work of the night is done. And why the version of the raccoon that exists in that last quiet hour is, in many ways, the most honest version of all. Stay with me from beginning to end, because behavior number 6 is the one that no researcher expected to find, and the one that changes everything about how we think about raccoon inner life. And the final one, number 8, is the one I think will stay with you the longest, especially the next time you come to your window in the early morning and find the raccoon still there, in the quiet, doing something you have never been able to explain. Before the pre-dawn hour becomes what it is, before the quiet behaviors begin, before the particular quality of those last dark minutes asserts itself, the raccoon does something that functions in every practical sense like a review. She moves back through the territory she has worked during the night. Not to forage again, not to revisit food sources she has already depleted. With a different quality of attention, slower, more thorough, less driven by hunger and more driven by something that looks from the outside like the particular rereading of a night's work. Researchers studying end-of-night behavior in urban raccoons have documented a consistent pattern of territorial retraversal in the hour before dawn. With raccoons covering ground they have already covered, investigating sites they have already investigated, in a manner that suggests information consolidation rather than continued foraging. She is consolidating. The spatial memory that will be updated by tonight's information is being refreshed against the physical reality of the locations it encodes. The cache sites that were checked, confirmed, and left undisturbed are being visited one final time before the long sleep. The access points that were used tonight are being read one final time before the morning makes them irrelevant for another day. This review is not visible in the way that active foraging is visible. It has the quality of an animal moving through familiar spaces with the particular ease of someone who is not looking for anything new, just confirming what is already known, just making sure the night is complete. She reviews the night the way anyone reviews a day that is ending. Not urgently, with the particular thoroughness of someone who will not have access to this information again for a while and wants to be sure before the access closes that nothing has been missed. Raccoons are among the most fastidious animals in North America. The popular image of the raccoon as a creature associated with garbage and mess is one of the great misconceptions of backyard wildlife observation, because the raccoon herself is the opposite of that. She is meticulous, she is thorough. She spends a remarkable amount of time on the maintenance of her own body. In the hour before dawn, after the night's work is done, she cleans. Researchers studying grooming behavior in raccoons have found that grooming accounts for a significant proportion of raccoon daily time budget, and that the most intensive grooming sessions tend to occur at the transitions between the active night period and the resting day period. The pre-dawn cleaning is the most thorough cleaning of the day. She uses her paws with the particular dexterity that makes raccoon paws one of the most sensitive and capable structures in the mammalian world. She works through her fur systematically, removing debris from the night's foraging. She cleans her face with the particular care of an animal that depends on its nose and whiskers for its most important sensory work. She cleans her paws, the instruments she uses to read the world, with the attention that a person might give to glasses they cannot see without. The cleaning in the pre-dawn hour is not purely practical. It has a quality of ritual, of the particular care that marks the end of a period of activity and the beginning of a period of rest. She's not just clean. She's putting herself in order for the day ahead in the way that puts the night behind her and makes the transition between the active self and the resting self something that can actually be made. The raccoon's choice of resting place is one of the most deliberate decisions she makes in any 24-hour period. She does not sleep anywhere. She sleeps somewhere specific, a location that has been assessed across multiple dimensions for its qualities of shelter, temperature, acoustic profile, and above all, safety. In the hour before dawn, she makes this choice. Not always the same place. Raccoons are flexible in their resting site selection, with multiple locations in their territory available for use on any given day. The choice between them is made in the pre-dawn hour based on the specific conditions of tonight, the weather, the temperature, the humidity, the particular state of each site as of the current visit. Researchers studying resting site selection in urban raccoons have found that raccoons spend measurable time in site assessment before committing to a resting location, visiting multiple candidate sites, evaluating each one, and selecting the one that best meets their current conditions requirements. She circles, she tests. She visits a hollow in the oak that she has used before and reads its current state, the temperature inside, the acoustic dampening it offers against the approaching morning sounds, the scent profile that tells her whether anything has used it since her last occupation. She is not looking for the resting place that is generally best. She is looking for the resting place that is best tonight. The distinction matters to her in ways that no external observer can fully read, but that produce, in the particular choice she eventually makes, the expression of a level of environmental attunement that most people never attribute to a backyard raccoon. She settles into her chosen spot as the sky begins its first almost imperceptible shift from black to the deepest shade of pre-dawn blue. The choice has been made, the night has been reviewed, the body has been cleaned, now the rest can begin. The raccoon that moved through your yard in silence at midnight, careful, quiet, operating in a mode of reduced sensory conspicuousness, is a different animal in the hour before dawn. She becomes in that final hour more vocal. Not loudly, not in the way that would draw attention or wake a sleeping household, but in the particular, quiet, intimate way of an animal that has reduced its threat assessment to its lowest level of the night, the assessment that says, the night's work is done, the dangers of the active period have passed, the world is quiet enough to be vocal in. The raccoon's vocal repertoire is far more extensive than most people know. The churring, purring, trilling vocalizations that raccoons use in social and self-comfort contexts are among the most intimate and least studied sounds in suburban wildlife. They are not alarm calls. They are not threat vocalizations. They are the sounds of an animal in a state of reduced alert, communicating with itself, with any social companions in proximity, with the particular quality of the pre-dawn world. Researchers studying raccoon vocalization across the night have documented elevated rates of soft social vocalizations in the pre-dawn period, with individual raccoons producing sounds they do not produce during the active foraging phase of the night. She makes these sounds as she moves through the last hour, not continuously, in the particular rhythm of an animal that has settled into the frequency of the world at 4 a.m., slow, deliberate, occasional. The sounds of someone talking quietly to themselves at the end of a long night. The sounds of a creature that is, finally, alone enough and safe enough to be audible. If you have ever heard something soft and unexpected from your yard in the early morning hours, not the sharp sounds of alarm or conflict, but something quieter and stranger, that was probably it. The raccoon talking to herself in the last hour before she went to sleep. This is the one that surprises people the most, and the one that deserves to be said clearly without hedging. In the hour before dawn, raccoons play. Not the play of kits learning survival skills, not the rough social play of young animals establishing hierarchies. Adult raccoons, alone or in social proximity to familiar individuals, engage in behaviors in the pre-dawn hour that have no survival function that researchers can identify, behaviors that produce no food, provide no safety advantage, maintain no territorial claim, accomplish nothing practical. They simply look like fun. Researchers studying leisure behavior in adult urban raccoons, a category of behavior that the scientific literature has been reluctant to engage with directly, but that observation increasingly supports, have documented sequences of activity in the pre-dawn period that include manipulative play with objects, exploratory behaviors with no foraging outcome, social play between adult individuals, and what can only be described as the particular exuberant movement quality of an animal doing something for its own sake. She picks up a stone she has no use for and rolls it. She investigates the texture of a fence board with the intense focused attention of an animal that has no practical interest in the information but cannot seem to stop gathering it. She runs a short, unnecessary circuit of a familiar space with the quality of movement that belongs to running for the pleasure of running rather than the necessity of covering ground. You have been thinking of the raccoon as a purely practical animal, an animal that does what it does because survival requires it. And this is true of the active night, the foraging, the assessment, the problem-solving, but the hour before dawn is not the active night. It is the hour when the practical requirements are met, and the animal that remains is the animal that exists beneath the practical requirements. And that animal plays. Sit with that for a moment. This is the one that no researcher expected to find, and the one that changes everything about how we think about raccoon inner life. In the pre-dawn hour, raccoons engage in a behavior that has no established scientific explanation and that researchers who have observed it have struggled to categorize. They look up, not in the alert, scanning posture of threat detection, not with the quick, instrumental glance of an animal checking for aerial predators, with a different quality of upward attention, sustained, unhurried, oriented toward the sky in a way that is distinct from any functional visual behavior the animal demonstrates at any other time of night. They sit in elevated positions or in open areas with unobstructed sky exposure, and they direct their gaze upward, for minutes at a time, in a posture of apparent stillness that is not the stillness of alert waiting but something else, the stillness of an animal receiving something from the sky above it. Researchers who have documented this behavior in extended nocturnal observation sessions have noted its consistent occurrence in the pre-dawn period specifically, not during the active night, not during twilight, but in the final quiet hour before the sky begins to change. And they have noted the particular quality of it, not purposeful, not vigilant, not alarmed, something that has no name in the behavioral repertoire. She is watching the sky in the pre-dawn dark with the particular attention of an animal doing something that serves no function researchers can identify. Something that looks, if you let yourself use the word, like wonder. She is looking at something in the dark, quietly, for no reason that survival requires. And that is the most unexpected thing we know about raccoons, that in the last hour of their night some of them look up at the sky and simply watch it. The raccoon's day is not your day. Her day is spent in the resting place she has just selected, not the yard, not the field, not the open suburban spaces where you might observe her. In the hollow, the den, the sheltered spot she chose in the pre-dawn hour, invisible to you. But the day exists for her, and in the last minutes before she retreats to it, she prepares for it. She positions herself relative to the sounds she will need to monitor while resting. She reads the acoustic landscape of the pre-dawn world for what it tells her about the soundscape she will wake to later in the day. She evaluates the wind direction and what it will carry to her resting spot in the hours of human activity that constitute her day. Researchers studying daytime resting behavior in raccoons have found that raccoons in their resting locations maintain a level of passive acoustic monitoring throughout the day, remaining alert to sounds that exceed specific thresholds even during their deepest rest phases. The position they choose and the orientation they assume in that position is preparation for that monitoring, the resting self already configured for the particular sounds that matter to this specific animal in this specific location. She is preparing for a day she will spend largely unconscious in a way that makes the unconsciousness as functional as possible, setting herself up for the quickest possible arousal if the soundscape of the day requires it. This is the final practical act of the active night, the last preparation before the transition to the resting period. And when it is done, the night is truly done. The raccoon that was in your yard in the dark, managing her survival with intelligence and thoroughness and the occasional glimpse of something that looks like wonder, that raccoon is about to disappear for the day. She is about to go somewhere you cannot follow, into the hollow, the den, the chosen shelter, into the day that is hers and not yours. She is about to become invisible again, the way she always has been, the way most of her life always is. I have saved this one for last, because it is the one I think will stay with you the longest. There is a moment, in the pre-dawn hour, after the review and the cleaning and the site selection and the vocalizations and the play and the skywatching and the preparation, when the raccoon does something that is perhaps the simplest and most human thing she does in any 24-hour period. She waits for the light. Not because she needs it, not because her day requires it or her rest depends on it. She is a nocturnal animal. The light is the signal that her active period is ending, not beginning. The light means sleep, not wakefulness. And yet, in the pre-dawn quiet, in the last minutes before the sky makes its first shift, she waits. Researchers studying transitional behavior in nocturnal mammals have documented a pause in pre-dawn behavior that consistently occurs in the minutes immediately preceding civil twilight, the first measurable lightening of the sky before sunrise. The animals stop their final pre-resting activities and enter a period of apparent stillness that precedes den entry. She is in that stillness now, the work of the night complete, the resting place chosen, the day's acoustic landscape read and prepared for, the sky watched, the world briefly, quietly, completely her own. She waits. Not with the anxious waiting of an animal that needs something, with the particular quality of waiting that belongs to the end of something. The waiting that says, not yet. The waiting that knows the light is coming and is, for reasons that have no survival explanation, choosing to be present for the moment of its arrival before retreating from it. She waits for the light the way anyone waits for something they know is coming. Not urgently. With the calm certainty of an animal that has been through this transition 1,000 times and has, somewhere in the deep biological experience of 1,000 dawns, developed something that looks like a relationship with the moment the sky changes. And then the sky changes. And she goes. Into the hollow, the den, the resting spot she chose. Into the day that is hers and not yours. Into the long invisible hours that are her day and your morning and that you will spend on opposite sides of a waking world without ever quite sharing the same version of it. She waited for the light, and then she left the light to you. That is not a story about raccoons in the hour before dawn. That is a story about what it means to be a creature in the world. About the particular dignity of the small and nocturnal, the intelligence that operates in the dark, the care that maintains itself without being observed, the play that happens when no one is watching, the wonder that looks up at the sky for no reason that survival requires. She was in your yard last night. She reviewed it, cleaned herself, chose her rest, vocalized into the quiet, played in the dark, watched the sky, prepared for her day, and waited for the light. And then she was gone, the way she always goes, into the invisible hours. But she was there, all of that happened, in your yard in the hour before dawn. And now you know. Before I go, I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer in the comments below. Have you ever come to your window in the very early morning before the light in the dark quiet of the hour before dawn and found the raccoon still there, not foraging, not eating, just there in the yard in a way that seemed different from the purposeful animal you usually see? Did you ever watch her do something you could not explain, something that did not fit your idea of what a raccoon does? Tell me about it. What time was it? What was she doing? What did it feel like to watch her when she did not know you were watching? The stories this hidden backyard wildlife community shares are some of the most extraordinary I read every week, and every single one of them matters. If anything in this video changed the way you think about the raccoon that visits your yard, share it with someone who would understand. Sometimes the right perspective at the right moment changes what we notice for the rest of our lives. Thank you for being here at Hidden Backyard Wildlife. Tonight, set an alarm. 1 hour before sunrise, go to your window. She may still be there, in the quiet, in the last dark before the light comes. Doing something no one talks about. I will see you in the next one.